What is up, everybody? I am Get Flanked, and today I have an Escape from Tarkov loadout guide for you. I'll be going over what type of gear you need to be bringing into every single raid in Escape from Tarkov. This guide is designed at beginners in the early wipe to help you understand not only what type of gear you need to bring, but why that gear is important and how it can help you when you're in raid. Now, I will be giving some advice as we go along here about what type of gear I like, but for the most part, this guide is designed to help you understand what type of gear you need to bring, not what is necessarily the best or meta piece of gear in every single category. There's lots of videos out there you can go check out. But again, in the beginning, I found that it was very daunting just to understand what the gear did for me and why I needed to bring it. So hopefully this will help these beginners understand that. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to work through me putting together a loadout myself and talk about the different pieces of equipment and why it's important. As we go along here, keep in mind, I have the Edge of Darkness edition. So if you don't have that edition, your secured container might be a little bit smaller. So it might affect your decisions a little bit. So just keep that in mind. For the most part, 99% of what I'm going to talk about here won't matter as far as what version you have, though. Now, before we start putting together a loadout, I just want to let you know there's a good chance that I'm streaming over on Twitch right now, Escape from Tarkov. We've been having a lot of fun this wipe. Come say hello in the chat, introduce yourself. If I'm not live at the moment, drop a follow. You'll see me the next time I go live. It'd be greatly appreciated, and I'll see you there. Okay, getting into the loadout now. Let's start with the gun. You need to be bringing a gun with you. That gun needs to be loaded with a full magazine. So right here, you can see the magazine is 30 of 30. Check to make sure that the ammo you're running matches this number right here. This is the caliber of ammunition that I'm running. Check that the ammo in your magazine is that caliber. For example, you can load 366 ammo into a 7.62 mag, and then if you load that mag into a 7.62 gun, it will not fire. So you want to make sure that you have a gun that it's loaded with the right ammunition. You also want to make sure the durability of your gun is as high as possible. Anything below 93 durability has a chance of a malfunction. So if your durability is low, repair it, get it up there as high as you can. You can check that by inspecting the weapon right here. Okay, now let's move on to armor. You do want to be running armor every single raid, in my opinion. There'll be times maybe where you're trying to do a pistol run and you don't think armor is important, but keep in mind, if you're not running any armor whatsoever, a scav can just one-shot you so easy, okay? So I always think it's worth it to run armor, even if it's just a P.A.K.A. or something like that. When you are putting on your armor, you want to check by opening it up here to see if it can carry plates. If it does, you have the plates installed. So this is a plate carrier right here, and you can see I have a front plate. It's a class 3, but the back plate is not installed. So what I could do is right click, go link search, and it'll take me to Prapper that sells the back plate. I can purchase that. We'll go to my inventory. Now I can install that back plate. When I inspect it now, you see front plate and back plate. Some armors can carry left plates, right plates, and stuff like that. Some armors, you won't be able to buy the plate that's missing. That's okay. Some armors can't take plates. For example, down here, we have armor right here that does not carry plates. You can hover over it. It'll tell you what class of armor this is outside of the plates. So that's important to know. As far as what armor to bring, again, I'm not going to get into all that. I will say this, though. If you're bringing good armor, like class 4 or above, in my opinion, is good armor early wipe. If you're bringing good armor, it should match the rest of your loadout, meaning you should be bringing a good gun and, you know, good headset, like a good backpack. So you don't want to be bringing like your best armor and a pistol. All right. If you're bringing good armor, make sure the rest of your kit is as good as it can be as well. Okay. Next, let's talk about a rig. Okay. You need a rig in every single raid. There will be exceptions. Of course, this is Tarkov. There's an exception to everything I'm going to talk about here. Okay. But for the most part, you should be running a rig, and you want a rig with as many slots as possible. Early wipe, this is a rig that I really like because it has a 4 slot right here. I also like that it kind of covers up the whole chest for the most part. So if you're wearing like this bright red armor, for example, it covers it up and doesn't allow it to be seen as much as maybe another rig would. Okay. The rig and the pocket slots are really, really important because this is where it allows you to access things in raid without entering the menu. So for example, if you have your extra magazines in your rig, then you can reload without entering the menu. Okay. If you have the extra magazine in your backpack, you would have to open up your gear menu and then unload and reload that way. Okay. That's the same with medicine, and that's the same with grenades. So anything that you have a hotkey to, or that you want to put a hotkey to, anything you want to access without having to enter the menu, you want it to either be in your pocket slots or your rigs. That's why these rig slots are important. Another thing to keep in mind with a rig is that you always need at least one slot available that can fit one of your magazines, okay? So I'm running this size magazine. I need one of these available. If I don't have one of those available completely, whenever I reload, I'm gonna drop the magazine that I take out of the gun on the ground and not have it back. I'll lose it unless I pick it back up, okay? So you wanna make sure that this isn't completely filled up, all right? Leave room for that magazine when you reload. As far as what stuff you want in your rig, 2 spare magazines is kind of my default. That changes based upon the weapon that I'm using. For example, if I'm running like a semi-auto gun, like an ADAR, I'll probably only bring like 1 extra 30-round mag. If I'm running a sniper that only has a 4-round mag, I might run more than 2 spare mags, okay? But general, I want 2 spare mags in there. This is also where I'm gonna put my grenades. If you have grenades, bring them. You'll be surprised how many times a grenade will save your life. I don't necessarily recommend early wipe going out and buying them unless you are good with them and feel like you're going to a map or a location where it could come in very valuable, but you'll find them throughout your scav runs and stuff like that. If you have them in your inventory, bring them. Just make sure that they're in your rig or your pocket slots, not your backpack. Now, last thing I'll say as far as a rig is that you can bring an armored rig, which is your armor and your rig combined into one. An example of that would be like right here, okay? And if you open it up, this shows how big the slots are inside of this rig, how much you can carry there. Highly recommend that. Just keep in mind that some of the early wipe armored rigs aren't great as far as slot size. And the more slots you have, the more gear you can get out and the more money you make. You can look at all those slots you're bringing with you into a raid as a potential money that you can bring out. All right, next thing, headset. Headsets are extremely important. Again, I recommend one every single raid, even on factory. If you can't afford one, fine, okay? You want to go do a pistol run on factory without one, go for it. But so many times in this game, whoever hears the other person first is who wins the gunfight. That's probably one of the most important deciding factors to winning fights with other players is if I hear the other one before they hear me, I can prepare for it and win. So a headset is a big piece of that. That kind of goes into the next thing, which is a helmet. Helmets are great. If you have one, run it, but they're not as important as a headset. So if you're running a helmet and it won't allow you to run the headset that you want or the headset that you have, the headset's more important. Take that helmet off and run the headset, in my opinion. Also, anything below a class 3 helmet doesn't do a whole lot. I don't buy a lot of helmets, especially early wipe, but whenever I have them in my inventory and I can run them with the headset I want, sure, I'll run a helmet. It could save you from a scav shot or something like that, or a pistol round. It can help. But the helmets, as you'll see, a lot of people have varying opinions on how important helmets are. And I would say early wipe, probably not worth buying a whole lot. Next, a face cover. It's nice to have. It can break up and camo you a little bit and not make you as noticeable, but not make or break. So you don't have to run one every raid. I do find personally, whenever I'm shooting at people, if they don't have a face mask, sometimes it feels like I can focus on that head hitbox a little bit better. Feels like I have a little bit more success. Could be definitely like placebo there, but I like running a face cover whenever I can. Okay, moving on to the backpack now. And backpack, it can be very tempting to skip because sometimes they can be expensive in an early wipe. But again, look at it as an investment, okay? All of these slots right here are potential money that you're bringing out of the raid. The difference between bringing out a toolkit early raid can be 150,000 rubles, depending on how much they're going for at the time on the flea market. So if something like that happens, you've paid for how many backpacks just by getting that one toolkit out. So keep that in mind. If you can afford a backpack, run it. There's going to be exceptions to that, of course. Sometimes, like on factory, I won't run one. I'll just go in, I'll kill a scav and take their backpack. But in general, you want a backpack. You need to be bringing food and water into your raids early wipe as well. I'm bringing milk here. I love milk because it does a little bit of both. 20 plus energy, plus 30 hydration. So it only takes up 2 slots, and it can be enough to get you through a raid. Sometimes early wipe, you might need a little bit more, like an MRE and a full water. All right, last thing we're going to talk about before we get into meds, which is a big topic, all right, is that you're going to bring your spare ammo and you're going to keep that in your secure container. I usually try to bring a full stack. So a 5.45 ammo, that's 60 rounds. Of different types of ammo, it might not be that much. So keep that in mind. But the big thing here is if it's in the secure container, if you die, you're not going to lose that spare ammo. And this is the ammo you're going to use to top off your mags after you fire some bullets. So if you empty half of a mag, you reload, that mag goes over here, then you're entering the menu, you're taking your ammo, you're dragging it up there, and you're topping that mag back off so that your mags are full again. All right, so let's get into meds now. And there are a lot of different opinions on the best meds and how to run meds and stuff like that. I'm going to give you two options right here, okay? So first of all, you need something that can stop a heavy bleed. There's multiple things that can do that. Generally, early wipe, it's going to be these Esmarks. I recommend bringing 2, okay? And you're going to hotkey them. I hotkey them to 4. That way, if you're in a fight, you get a heavy bleed, you can hit 4. Without entering the menu, you're going to stop that heavy bleed, and that can be the difference between living and dying in a gunfight. You want your heavy bleeds to be hotkeyed. Next, you need something to repair a broken bone. All right, that can be just a plain splint like that. I generally run in aluminum splint, and if I do, I generally have it in my secure container. So it can kind of bite you because it's not hotkeyed. Sometimes, you do need to fix a broken bone when it's hotkeyed. We'll talk about a workaround here in just a second. But the aluminum splints can be expensive early wipe, so I run it in the secure container so I don't risk losing it. All right, that's going to repair your broken, fractured bones. You need something to repair a blacked out limb, a surgery kit. So that's a CMS. You want that to be in a secure container. And you generally want at least 2 uses to be there pre-raid. So if this was down to 1 of 5, this number down here, I would probably throw it up here and then bring another one and have that one in my secure container, the one that's still 5 of 5. But this one's 5 of 5. Put it in the secure container. If you get a blacked out limb, that's what you're going to use to do surgery and get it back so you can heal it. You also need a painkiller. In the early wipe, that's going to be the Analgin a lot. There's a lot of different types though. If I'm running the Analgin, I'll have it up here in like a pocket slot, hotkeyed to 6. If I'm running something more expensive like Golden Star or even ibuprofen, I'll generally have it in the secured container. It's kind of nice having the Analgin up here hotkeyed though, because if you have a broken bone, let's say you're on customs and you're running across a bridge and a scab shoots you in the leg and breaks your leg. Now you can only walk, you can't run. And that's going to make you very easy for that scab to finish you off. If I have to open my gear and then use the aluminum splint down here, it can take a lot of time. If I can just hit 6 and take a painkiller, it will allow me to run the rest of the way across that bridge, even though my leg's broken. So that's where painkillers really come in handy. They get you out of sticky situations. And it's nice to have them hotkeyed, but I generally don't have them hotkeyed the majority of my raids, if I'm being honest. And last but not least, you need something you can actually heal with. So we'll bring this IFAK, all right? And you may notice right now that I haven't mentioned something to bring a light bleed. I very rarely bring any type of a bandage. A bandage is something that will specifically stop a light bleed in game. The reason for that is if you open the IFAK up, you can see here that it stops light bleeds and it requires 30 HP. I'm okay with that. So if I have a light bleed, I can use my IFAK to get rid of that light bleed. It'll take away 30 of the HP out of the 300. That's okay. Now you can see it also stops heavy bleeds, but that's going to take 210 HP. So if I use the IFAK to stop a heavy bleed, I only have 90 HP left from this to heal the rest of my body. That's not acceptable. That's why the Esmark is good. You always want to be bringing that, something for heavy bleeds. But for a light bleed, I'm okay using this. That's why I very rarely am bringing bandages. Just make sure that the heals you bring can heal a light bleed. If you're bringing in a cheese slice, for example, that does not stop a light bleed. You'll need bandages in addition to that. Now I'm going to put a hotkey on my IFAK for 5. That's how I do it. I have my heavy bleeds on 4, my heals on 5, and my painkiller on 6 if I have one hotkeyed. You may want something completely different, but that's what I've just grown used to. All right, so now let me show you the alternate way of running your meds that I mentioned before. This is a bit controversial, but I think that for beginners, early wipe, this is very valuable and will save you a lot of money. So let's clear out these meds, and it involves bringing a Grizzly. All right, so we have a Grizzly here. We'll throw it down in the secure container. If you do not have the Edge of Darkness Gamma secure container, this can be more difficult because you don't have as much room. And you definitely want to keep your spare ammo and your surgery kit in your secure container. So you might not have the room for the Grizzly. But if you do have Edge of Darkness, this can work. All right, so Grizzly in the secured container. Here's the good thing about a Grizzly. The Grizzly does everything other than painkiller. It stops heavy bleeds, it stops light bleeds, it repairs fractured bones, and it heals. So as a beginner, the healing system can be very confusing. it's nice to have something, okay, whatever's wrong with me right now, I can click on this and it's going to fix me. That's one nice part of it. Number two, because it's in your secure container, if you die, you don't lose it. So with that IFAK up here, if I die, I lose that. And that can get expensive over time. All right. Now, with the Grizzly, I still do run something to stop a heavy bleed on the fly, but I'll probably only bring one. I'll have one Esmark hotkeyed. That way, if I'm in a gunfight, I can still stop the heavy bleed without entering the menu. That's the definite downside to the Grizzly in the secured container, is every time you heal or do anything, you have to enter the menu. So it's not nearly as fast as having a heal hotkeyed, but it'll save you a lot of money. So you can decide what you want to do here. So if I'm running a Grizzly, usually I have one Esmark with me to stop a heavy bleed, and you still need a painkiller as well. So we'll do that like we did before, but that's going to save you a lot of money when you're losing those meds over and over again and dying a lot. All right, next thing we need to mention is that you need to bring money for vehicle extract. I generally try to put that in my secure container if there's room, but 5,000 rubles for a square is not a ton. It depends on your money situation. It can be all the money in the world. But if you have room in your secure container, sure, put it in the secure container. The vehicle extract and being able to leave on that can save your life so many times and be the difference of getting out, a loadout full of loot and all that money, or zero. Okay, so that $5,000, again, look at it as almost an investment, and it will pay dividends if you have it with you consistently. And last but not least, any quest specific items. Okay, so if you're doing a task for Jaeger on woods where you have to plant water and iskris, make sure you have them. If you need to mark trucks, make sure you're bringing your MS-2000s. Do not get to the truck and realize you don't have it. Make sure you're putting the MS-2000s in your special slots here. If you die, you do not lose them. That's very, very important. These are expensive. So make sure they're in the right slot. Make sure you have them with you. Keys. If you need to bring a key to unlock a door or a key to a safe, you generally want them in the secure container. So some tough decisions here. If you're having to bring keys, money for vehicle extract, stuff like that, you might have to get rid of the Grizzly and run your normal meds. That's all going to fluctuate raid to raid. But in general, this is all the stuff that you need to be bringing with you and considering. So hopefully this guide has helped you understand not only what you need to bring, but why it's important. If you found it useful, make sure you share it with a friend who's getting into Tarkov as well, or maybe coming back after a long break can help them remember the things that they need to bring and maybe save your life in a raid. If you enjoyed this, please make sure you like and subscribe. I've got a bunch of other guides on the channel. Make sure you check those out. Come say hello to me over on Twitch sometime, and we'll see you on the next one.